Welcome to the Everyone Draft Community, a long-standing league in their 13th season of operation consisting of 5 divisions. We're competing in the Ignite League, their Wi-Fi division. Myself and 15 other accomplished coaches will be competing over the next couple of months in order to be crowned as the Season 13 Ignite Division Champion. So let's go ahead and get into the draft analysis. Okay, we are back in the Wi-Fi scene. It's been a while. It's been a while since we competed. I think it's been almost a year since ASL Wi-Fi discontinued operation. But we're back. I've been really looking to get something going again in the Wi-Fi sphere. Been playing a lot of Showdown and whatnot. But Wi-Fi is always fun. It's always fun. Making content, playing on cartridge, getting that more authentic feel. So yeah, let's just preface what this league is kind of all about. So as I said previously, there are 16 coaches, some pretty well accomplished Wi-Fi players, might I add. And this is a reduced format, so you're not going to see top mods like Shen Pao, Dragapult, stuff like Palafin, Gouging Fire. All the top, like, okay, these guys are going first round. So some examples of what went first overall. TERA Mamoswine, interestingly, went first overall, which I think is really cool. Like Mamoswine, TERA, it's a fun calc if you want to go ahead and do that. But stuff like Walking Wake, Iron Shreds, Hisuian Samurott, stuff that went super early. I really had my eye on Walking Wake. We were the 5th overall pick, so I thought that was a pretty realistic scenario, but it ends up going 3rd overall, but that's okay. What we ended up grabbing is probably one of my comfort mons. I don't traditionally play well on Wi-Fi, so I feel like I need to get a comfortable team to get going. So with that in mind, with our 1st overall pick, we took Zapdos. So Zapdos was 19 points. 19 points was the highest point tier. And I think Zapdos is just incredible. It kind of just does everything that you could ever want. It's very defensive. Typing-wise, it's only weak to Ice and Rock. And then it also just hits like a truck. 125 special attack, a really good speed stat. I love my speedy defenses, just because you can get above a lot of slow wall breakers where 2-hit KOs aren't really a problem anymore. But Zapdos just has really great coverage. It kind of has everything it needs. Its dual stabs are incredible, and it's really at that point only weak to steel and ground types. And it does struggle hitting electric types, but for the steel and ground types it has Heat Wave, and again, as I said, the only things that are super effective on this thing are Ice and Rock, not the most common typings, especially in draft. So starting out with Zapdos is just we can take this team in any direction. We can take it, especially in the rain direction. Like if I don't want to worry about hitting hurricanes, we can go with rain. Maybe grab something like our Chaladon. We could really go with any weather though, because Zapdos does get Weather Ball, so Weather Ball Fire is pretty interesting, or Weather Ball Ice. So we have Bolt Beam coverage is pretty interesting. So I think Zapdos is just it doesn't really matter what falls to me in the 2nd round. We're good. Zapdos is incredible. So I feel like getting a glue piece right off the bat was super nice. And then going into the 2nd round, like I said, it just rolled around to me at the 5th pick. I was like, okay, I'm just going to take Zapdos. And the 2nd pick comes around, and I'm like, well, what do I want here? I had been eyeing stuff like Iron Boulder, just because I usually have trouble getting speed a lot of the times in draft. So prioritizing that stuff early, especially in a reduced format where it's you don't have all these extremely speedy mods. So I was looking at Boulder, like I said, but then something caught my eye. And to this day, I don't understand why this is allowed. I think this mon is stupidly broken. And we went ahead and we went with TERA Haxorus. You might be like, well, I mean, why do you think it's broken? You can see the stats on your screen as I provided. It's eerily similar to Baxcalibur. It's a little bit faster. It's a little bit frailer. But attack stat wise, it's pretty much the same. It gets a lot of the same coverage as Baxcalibur does. Obviously, Earthquake. It gets Scale Shot, Dragon Dance. Oh, we don't get Ice Shard, but we get First Impression. That hits even harder, right? So like TERA Bug First Impression, it hits like a truck. And you'll see the TERA Stellar icon there. This is a free TERA League TERA preview. And the interesting thing is, it is one of the leagues where it's like if you take a Mon and you TERA it, it does increase the points on the Mon. So I think Haxor's was normally 13 points and it jumps up to 15 with the TERA. But there's no limit to the amount of like TERA points you can spend. Like you can grab any 2 captains as long as you still fall within the 120 point budget, which is really interesting because a lot of times it's like, okay, you have a certain TERA point budget, you have to do 1 high TERA captain and then 1 lower one, or like 2 middle ones, but you can do 2 high ones as long as you're still within the 120 points. So I think that's really interesting. But I mean, back to Haxorus, like again, it is eerily similar to Baxcalibur, power wise, move pool wise. It also gets Swords Dance. This thing is an absolute monster. Just go ahead and calc TERA Bug onto things. It is a treat. Like this thing is insane. And it's like you can't really run Protect a lot of the time for it because it's like, well, what if I just click Swords Dance or Dragon Dance on your face, you know? Also, the 97 speed looks a lot better in a reduced format. Like I said, there's not a lot of this higher end speed. So base 97 speed is really solid. So I think TERA Haxorus is a demon, bro. Like I don't understand why this thing is allowed. I think it's one of the best TERA captains in the format. So I'm really excited to see this thing put in work because I've seen it TERA before in like normal formats, like Natdex, and it was still an absolute problem. Just because it also gets 2 incredible abilities. It gets rivalry, not rivalry, but it gets Mold Breaker, which is really nice for like earthquaking levitate mons. And then it also gets a nerve, which might be like, oh, it's not great, but when you consider that, you know, you might have to run a Tanga Berry for the first impression. Well, if I'm just gonna run a nerve, then you can't eat a resist berry. So I think TERA Haxorus is extremely good. But as I was saying before, I was really looking at Iron Boulder. And this was on the wheel where I was picking like pretty close together. So I was just hoping that Iron Boulder got back to me. And it did, which is awesome. We got Iron Boulder, base 124 speed. It's one of the fastest mons of the format, which, like I said, I really wanted to prioritize and make sure I had good speed control. But just overall, I think Iron Boulder is one of like the top offensive mons in a reduced format. Obviously, we can't TERA. I don't. No, you couldn't TERA. TERA was banned on it, so I wouldn't have even had the option if I didn't choose Haxorus. But yeah, Iron Boulder just hits like a truck. It's really fast. And it really rounds out a really good offensive core here. You know, Zapdos can be pivoting into my Haxorus, into my Iron Boulder, and we got physical offense down pat. You know, Iron Boulder just has really great coverage. We can afford to be choice banned since we are so fast, or we can just be a fast Scarf. We can be booster. It also gets Sword Dance for setup. Iron Boulder's great. Like, again, this was mainly drafted in this position for speed control, but Iron Boulder is incredible. I've used it in the past. I used it in BBL Showdown, so an Ubers League. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Wi-Fi version of it. And it was okay. I didn't have it TERAing in that league, which was probably the problem. When you're in an Ubers format and there's like a million different priorities, it's kind of rough. But again, I'm pretty happy with Iron Boulder. I'm really excited to see how it performs here. So then, this is where we get to the portion of the draft where all the snipes start. I was getting sniped pretty hard. I'm pretty sure at the end of this draft I counted 9 snipes. I'll try and remember all of them. I probably can't off the top of my head, just because there's so many, and I had to pivot the plan. Like, this is probably plan 6 or 7 or something like that. I'm pretty sure on this go around I was sniped on Tentacruel, because I also would like to prioritize Rapid Spin and knockoff mons. Rapid Spin knockoff mons are really high priority for me. We get sniped on it. A bunch of the fairies go on this round too, so I'm like, okay, we better go ahead and we better take one of my favorite fairies, and that is Pheasantipede. I think Fez is incredible on this team. I think it's the best of the trio, and it's not even remotely close, although that's not exactly a nuanced opinion. But yeah, Pheasantipede is incredible. It's a really good special wall. It pairs pretty well with Zapdos, to be honest. Zapdos can help it with all the earthquakes. But the biggest thing I think Fezandipity really provides for this team, other than being a really solid special defensive mon and a pivot, is we can throw off U-turns and potentially rack up toxics on stuff, which can clear the way for a booster, a banded boulder, or it can clear the way for Haxers to just click one Dragon Dance or one Scale Shot and just win the game. So like I said, I think getting sniped on Tentacruel really like opened this up, because I don't love doubling up on grounded poisons, just because ground weakness is hard enough to circumvent in draft. Which is ironic given my next pick. But, I think Fezandipity, what it gives me is so incredibly valuable. And it's a really strong fairy type. Like, I think before this, like, Screamtail went, Diancie went, Sylveon went, like, almost all of, like, the standard fairies where it's like, okay, I could definitely consider that. We're going, and I'm just like, I need to lock this up now. So we went ahead and we grabbed Fezandipity. And I kind of alluded to this already, but my next pick, very ground weak, but it's a core that I've loved with Zapdos. I've used it fairly recently in one of the seasons of ASL. It's an incredible core, and all the steel types were going. Like, I'm pretty sure on this go around I got sniped on Infernape and Polion, because I was looking at what steel types were left, and it was like, okay, Scizor and Polion and the mon I ended up taking. Scizor lasted. The Empoleon plan I liked, and then the Empoleon plan got sniped, so I went ahead and I went with Heatran. Heatran, really, really good mon. I used to not be a believer, because when I first started playing draft, I was like, oh, walls have to have recovery or they're not walls. Well, lo and behold, that's not even remotely true. But Heatran is just incredible. Like I said, I've used Zapdos Heatran before. It's an incredibly strong core. They cover each other very, very well. And Heatran it's just a monster. 130 special attack behind really solid bulk and a really good move pool. In Paldea decks, it's a little bit worse than that decks, because it doesn't get stuff like Toxic and Eruption, which kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, this was probably one of the best steel types left on the board. It really helps clear out fairies for the likes of Haxorus. Like, I could have gone like a much worse steel type, like a quote-unquote bulkier steel type in Bronzong, but I just didn't feel like that was right for the team, because then like, Fez doesn't hit the hardest for fairy types. So I think Heatran gives me a lot offensively and defensively. And just the fact that Heatran has so many resistances and immunities, and it's really only weak to fighting, water, and ground, which I can play around very easily. I can build around very easily. So I've used Heatran in the past. I've really come around to it, and I really like it. And then next, I was planning on going Donphan. Believe that was the only snipe on this round. Because again, I love my rapid spin mons. I love my knockoff mons. I really love that duo for a move pool. And basically all of the spinners were getting taken this turn. Like, I was pretty worried I was not going to get a spinner. But they actually have a mon relatively under tiered in my opinion, especially for a reduced format. And that mon is Toadscruel. So Toadscruel, 5 points out of 19 is pretty incredible, might I add. And a lot of the time is because the community has a pretty mixed view of Toadscruel because of Mycelium Might. I agree, I don't like Mycelium Might, but to be honest, I just use Toadscruel in a league. I kind of play it to the same way that I play Shaman. I just have a lot of attacks on it, you know. Rapid Spin Knockoff, that's a large part of the reason why I drafted this mon. And to be a ground type, which does help clear out a lot of things, like steel types are a bit of an issue for this team, so like I don't envision myself bringing a lot of status on this thing, so I'm not really concerned about Mycelium Might. And as I said previously, I really like my my speedy walls, so 100 speed's pretty good. It's got good coverage, Sludge Bomb, Dazzling Gleam, stuff like that. It does get Leech Seed, which is pretty nice. So I think Toadscruel is extremely under-tiered. So I'm pretty happy to free up some of those points since I've taken a lot of points, 19, 15, 15, 11, 15. And And it was at this point I thought I was taking TERA Fez too, which bumps it up to 12 points. So I think Toadscruel is extremely good. Brings me a lot of utility that the team was currently lacking. So I'm pretty happy about that. Then this next round, this one almost hurts the most. I think this snipe hurts the most. I really wanted Keldeo. Keldeo fits really good on this team. It's relatively bulky, 90 HP, 90 defense, 90 special defense, and it's a flip turner. Base 108 speed would bridge a speed tier. I really wanted Keldeo. It got taken 2 picks before me. And I was scouring the board. So many bulky waters went this round. And I really needed like a bulky water with flip turn. Now Swampert was on the board, but Swampert doesn't resist ice, which like was kind of a priority of mine right now because I wanted to help out with Zapdos a good bit. So I was like, maybe not. And this might seem as an interesting bulky water, but I ended up drafting Basculegion. You'll see Basculegion female on your screen. We get to use both forms, so that's cool. I don't know if there's a rain team, but you know, maybe we'll be bringing the physical one because I think the physical one is a little bit better in the rain. But yeah, I think Basculegion, like 65 defense and 75 special defense, it's not great, but 120 HP is really good. We get Pain Split as well to be a little bit bulky. We get some flip turns, and then base 100 special attack doesn't seem crazy, but this thing is adaptability. So this was kind of the only bulky water left with flip turn. I've used Basculegion in the past, really enjoyed it. So you know, we'll see how this goes. This is probably the mon that I'm the most worried about, but I've liked it in the past. It hits like an absolute truck. It can get off some flip turns. And that's really what I needed to do in this spot. And we were kind of lacking a little bit in special wall breakers because it's like, okay, Zapdos and Heatran might be defensive a lot of the time, and I mean Basculegion might be as well, but it's like a lot of walls that just have extremely high special attack stats if you want to factor in adaptability. So I really like Basculegion in this team. It definitely wasn't my first choice. I would have picked Keldeo, but you know, I think it is. I think it's going to be a good mon. I'm not too worried about it. So then going into my next pick, this was probably the hardest snipe of it all. I wanted Keldeo more than this mon, but this was the hardest to recover from, and I don't truly know that I did throughout the draft. I wanted Zarude, and it got past someone where I was like, okay, this is probably the last person that is going to take it before it gets back to me. They didn't take it. It took like Oricorio or something for 2 points, which is a crazy good value, so good on them. And then the team with a Rillaboom took Zarude. I was very confused. Granted, this is a reduced format, so stuff like that is going to happen. But that was brutal. That was brutal. I needed a defensive dark type. It would have helped out with Heatran a ton. So I was racking my brain for a while, and I still needed a defensive dark type. And this is kind of a defensive dark type. It gives me, it maintains it being a pivot. And that mon is TERA, Galarian, Moltres. So this is probably not exactly a one-to-one comparison of Zarude, but it fills a little bit of the same role. I think with TERA, this thing is interesting. Listen, it got Pain Split in DLC 2. I've wanted to try it because I think Pain Split with Berserk, so you could proc multiple Berserks. Surely there's something there. There is something there. So I'm interested to see how this thing goes. You do notice that we're basically skewing all of our defenses towards special defense, which is a little bit interesting, but it maybe just makes the EVs a lot easier each week. We can just invest a lot in physical defense. But yeah, Galarian Moltres is really interesting. It's obviously very good at setting up. Like Double Dance is a thing. Like I said, Berserk Pain Split shenanigans. I'm gonna have to try that at least once this season. But really bulky mon, hits really hard. It gets U-turn, which was important for me. Like a lot of the other dark types were either like 4 times weak to a certain type, or they didn't have U-turn, or they were super passive. Like Umbreon would have been good on this team, but I just can't play passive like that. It's not my thing. So we got Galarian Moltres. I'm excited to see how it turns out. And then for the next pick, this was suggested to me by BGC, who helped me throughout a lot of this planning process. So shout out to BGC for helping me there. Good friend from ASL. We needed a fighting type after the Keldeo snipe, and we eventually landed on Slitherwing, which we're not running a Sun team. There are some elements of it, you know. Like I said, Zapdos can go ahead and rock out with Weather Ball, but the main thing that Slitherwing gives us here, not only is it a fighting type, it's another first impression mon. So there's probably going to be a lot of instances of bringing Protect against me because I have two very strong first impression users. But Slitherwing pairs incredibly well with Heatran. Can go ahead and soak up all those Earthquakes for Heatran. Can soak up all those close combats as well. Like, Slitherwing is a really, really good defensive piece for this team, as well as having base 135 attack. Like, I think it was between Slitherwing and Heracross, and I'm sure there were other snipes at this point, but I can't even remember at this point. This is kind of where I had solidified the plan, and we didn't get sniped moving forward. So yeah, I think Slitherwing is gonna be a lot a defensive answer, because I don't think Toedscruel is great as a grass type and being able to take on Edgequake, Earthquake, and Stone Edge. But Slitherwing can. Slitherwing can do a great job. It gets stuff like Morning Sun, Will-O-Wisp, gets pretty good coverage, and then we can just fire off some really, really hard-hitting stab U-turns. So I really love what Slitherwing brings to the team. And like I said, TERA Mammo went first overall. This is a really good answer to TERA Mammo. It outspeeds it by 1 speed point. We resist Earthquakes, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, I think Slitherwing is going to be a great addition to the team. And then, moving on to the next pick, needed a normal type, needed a little bit of removal, and we also needed to bridge a speed tier. We have a gap from 124 to 100 from Iron Boulder to Zapdos and Toedscruel, I think was the only one. I had a bunch hovering around 100, but that was the only one. BGC went ahead and helped me out again here with the mouse hold suggestion. All right, there we go. Mouse hold. So mouse hold for 4 points, I think is pretty good value. You know, it gets stuff like Tidy Up, which is not going to be like bring it all the time as the removal option. It's probably going to be Toedscruel most of the time, but it gives me a little option. And we're going to be forcing prep with Population Bomb. You got to bring Rocky Helmets. Otherwise, this thing might just click Tidy Up and then rip off some Population Bombs. Like, we're not TERA, so we can't TERA normal, but you know, I think this provides a lot. We could have gone with Cincino, which would have added knockoff, but Mousehold does get some tech like Switcheroo, still maintains U-turn. So I think the main thing here with Mousehold is like, if my opponent doesn't have a normal resist, you better be afraid of Mousehold, because this thing has potential to put in a lot of work. So I think it adds a little bit to the team here. Like I said, it gives me another removal option, even though I'm pretty comfortable bringing Toedscruel a lot of the time. But it just gives us options. So for the last pick, if you've been totaling, like I said, we have 120 total points. We have 2 points left. There were some options in 2 points. There's actually a lot of like good mons, to be honest. I was looking at Leafeon as like I said, I don't think Toedscruel is a super true grass type in terms of being able to take on Edgequake. It would give me more physical defense as well. I was looking at Pink Urchin maybe because I needed some hazards. Like right now, my only hazards is Heatran's my only rock setter, and Toedscruel can set spikes, but that's it. So Pink Urchin can set that. It can help out Iron Boulder, but I was like, what are the odds my opponent has more Iron Paradoxes than me? Probably pretty high. So I went with another pretty good budget mon in 2 points to round out the draft. And we went ahead and we took Duraludon. Duraludon for 2 points is pretty crazy. Like, I'm kind of surprised this thing is 2 points. You can see the stats on the screen. It's nothing to laugh about. 50 special defense is not great, but it can run Eviolite. And Eviolite makes it extremely bulky. You can go ahead and calc max Spadef Eviolite Duraludon. it can avoid a 2-shot on Choice Specs Bundle. Obviously, Bundle's not here, but just for like frame of reference. So I think Duraludon is great. Like I said, it gives me another rocker, and it never hurts having another steel type. So I think Duraludon is really good value down there. It's probably just a bit more reliable than Pink Urchin since it can actually like have coverage, hit hard, and gives me just a little bit more. So I think Duraludon was a great way to round out the draft, and we don't have any glaring issues here. This is actually one of the fastest teams I've ever drafted. Our slowest mon is Heatran at base 78 speed. So yeah, I think we're gonna have a good season in the everyone draft community, the EDC Ignite Season 13. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the team down below. First week of battles will be next week. This is going up on March 9th, so I believe our week 1 battle will go up on March 16th, and it's going to be 9 weeks long. I will be providing team builders as well. It's something I haven't done in the past, but to provide more context to each game, I think that'll be good. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next week. Let me know what you guys think about the team down below. If you're excited for the season, thank you guys all for watching. Bye bye.